order in to,
I just read the right two letters to
have taco salad.
Is
Is
it
any candy in it? And there was, she only had two, three left. The last two, yeah. She had to wait for us to walk in the door. Nice to know someone have the system. Probably to the restaurant.
They did.
So, did they like send the lady home, before they go home? Mom, could we have this for dinner?
They don't.
They don't? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, they do?
No.
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting back to order at 1:01, and we will resume with item number D7, our 1 o'clock time serving Public Works, the discussion on the Ford Chambers project. Richard, would you like to give an intro?
Sure, I'm sorry, I was a little distracted there. I guess what I'd like to do is introduce again Mr. Morris to go over his updates he's made to the plan first. Based on last week's,
Jeff Morris, NSD Engineering, and based on some of the comments that we had last week, I have a few ideas here that change the configuration of the dais and seating, taking into consideration trying to create a little more space for the public, as well as space for multimedia needs, screens and that type of thing. And these are very quick. We had a couple days where we were open. So. Anyway, so the first one that's in front of you takes the plan that extends the existing supervisor or court chambers. It's pretty much exactly the way it was before, except the clerk is up adjacent to the desks, and the staff is, of course, adjacent to the clerk. And so everything's pulled up closer to the dais, to the supervisors. And then I've put to the south, or the bottom of the page, area for whiteboard and screen. There would be a table for a projector and a podium would be near that. So it's pretty compartmentalized there. The second one rotates the dais for the supervisors on about a 60-degree angle. And the reason for this is you get a little better view of the screen and whiteboard. It'd be virtually in front of the supervisors rather to the side. This allows a little more seating in the bottom right-hand corner for staff. Next to the screen and whiteboard, there would be windows off the hallway so that some of the staff could be in the hallway waiting for their turn if necessary.
Where's the windows? Where
Uh,
the 30/30 is?
yeah, where it says 33rd.
Right in that area, okay.
Couple windows there. And we would put windows at the back of the supervisor's chambers next to the door so
People can look in.
public or anybody could be looking in from the foyer as well. Another option would be behind the supervisors. You could have another screen if necessary. With a rectangular configuration, it's really tough to have the public, the supervisors, the staff all looking in a direction where they could easily see the screen and your multimedia type stuff and the whiteboard. So this one gives everybody a fairly good opportunity, except in the far back of the seating of the public. The third one kind of goes along with Mr. Chapman was talking about actually turning it 90 degrees. It's a little tough to do that in this area because of the posts. The columns
Yeah, I
either.
think we were talking not so much on this, but was when you had the, like in A,
Right.
where you had, we were using this space rather than this space. So
Right.
you would have the center seating right in here, so the post would be behind you. And it would be kind of semicircle that way. That's just a, kind of a side thought.
Right. And we'll get to that one in a minute. Okay, so this one's at a 90-degree angle. It can work. I don't think it's the best use of space. Okay. The fourth one takes the other option. And one of the difficulties of turning at right angles, like we were talking about, Jim, is we have an exit door that's almost right in the middle of that wall space, and we have windows, so that becomes a little bit of a problem because that is your second emergency exit, so it has to be accessible.
Does the dais area have to be that far into the ring? Because you got all this other space back here in terms of shifting it this direction a little bit more.
No, but you have to keep in mind, behind your seating, there has to be enough space to be able to get ADA accessibility.
What's the width of this space back here?
That is about 6 to 8 feet.
Oh, okay, because when you look at the room, it kind of proportion, it looks like it's bigger than that, but
Yeah,
that's.
no, it's
6
only
to 8 feet is
about
all
6 to 8 feet if I remember. I can tell you that. Yeah. That's probably closer to 8 feet.
What's the minimum required?
That space back there, which would be considered storage, I would say you'd want at least about 6 feet.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Okay. And so this one's not bad. The biggest difficulty you have is the location of the screen and the whiteboard. Because it'd be nice to be in front of the supervisors, which would put it on an outside wall where those windows are. There's some spaces there that could be used. I thought of again putting a screen behind the staff, which is in the lower right-hand corner. So you could have a screen, whiteboard behind staff, as well as possibly a screen out near the public.
Could you flip this around this way so it's looking that way? So instead of have the back here over here, so that you have the wall space on this side to use?
Yes, we could do that. Now, by doing that, I would recommend that the dais is not raised. That makes it easier to get to that door. Otherwise, if you have a platform, 6-inch platform, it's going to be very difficult to get a ramp in there and get the required ADA accessibility.
Well, I don't think we're necessarily locked into having a raised platform,
No.
so that's,
Okay, so those are some real quick options, just to create some food for thought.
Jeff, with the seating in these separate plans, in the first one, how many people can you sit?
I didn't really count them out, Tom. On any of them, they're between 70 and about 85.
Can I-
One of the,
No, not the-
one of the keys is if we get over 100 people within a space, an assembly space, some of your code requirements
yes, change.
trigger.
Yeah.
Change.
The, I mean, thanks for doing these on short notice, but to me, it seems, okay, there's 5 options, and the only ones I think, that I would kind of give a vote of confidence to are the first one and the last one, simply because the second, third, and fourth one, you have your people there, and some of you board, they're sitting like this, and some all the way like this, and some like this, but it just doesn't work. I mean, first and foremost, the board needs to address.
From the second one up, that board member in the public will not be seen.
No.
I agree.
So, yeah, but I mean, I appreciate you, but, I mean, realistically, you need to, I think, we all think about it, I mean, you don't wanna design a boardroom where the board is looking, away from the audience, so. So, so the first one, looking at the dais, to the right there, right before that door, that's where the screen, does that say projector?
That would be a potential screen.
Whiteboard and screen, okay.
Yeah, keep in mind, Larry, on this particular one, if you put the screen and whiteboard on the wall that's at the bottom of the page there, that I show, it's difficult for the entire public to see it, okay? So the lower right-hand corner where it shows the screen on the angle,
Yeah.
the potential is that, now, it makes it a little tougher for the supervisors to see, they'd have to turn to the side, but for the public and staff, it's a great way to look.
Yeah. But there's also a screen that shows there before that door.
yeah, right
That's
here.
correct.
So you
So there'd be 2 options there,
Oh, yeah,
for-
that's perfect, yeah.
depending on what you're doing, because most of your meeting needs are gonna be very minimal.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have a whole lot of public there, things are pretty easy to converse with staff or whatever, but there are gonna be times when you have a larger crowd that you may want to use this other screen just to be able to get the public involved.
And the first option, the first one, that's the one where it's most like how it is now, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then, is there anything in your opinion on the last one that where we also face the public, significantly better than the first one?
About the only thing that would be significantly better is the last one that would have that space for the staff, a room for the staff, with windows that are just directly adjacent to the supervisor chambers. And then also, you have direct access to the conference room off the back of the IT. Those two are a benefit for the last one. The first one, you have to go through a hallway to get to any board chambers, because the hallway is gonna have to be maintained.
And then as far as the media, the screen on the last one, I mean, it's obviously in a good position for the staff to see it, but it looks like it would be a bit of a challenge for the public.
For the meeting.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
Yeah, pretty much almost impossible, because they're, you know,
The only other option that you would have, really gets back to what Jim was talking about, is flopping it 180 degrees. So the staff is to the outside wall. And then you would use the interior wall on the left side of that.
But
that
having
board
that
screen.
staff area behind there, it allows the staff to come and go to the staff table area, so I think you want to keep that nestled together like that. So that kind of, you give up that in order to have an occasional use of a screen or whiteboard.
That's correct. Keep in mind, right now, you're trying to create a chamber based on fixed walls, boundaries, that's a good word, boundaries, that makes it a little tough. I mean, you have to decide what is more important, and you have a little give and take.
so the last option with its access to the staff room, and that's really improved over the first one.
That's
The
correct.
only negative seems to be the viewing of the screen. Isn't it possible to have like a pull down?
Yeah, I was
Yes, that is a
gonna
possibility.
suggest, having this wing coming out here where I guess you have the media sitting, is taking that, detach it and put it over like in this area here, and then in this space here, you know, obviously out of the walkway path here, but in this area right in here, you have a drop down screen that could come down, and it would still be, you know, in this location, it would be visible to the board, but it'd be visible to the bulk of the public sitting over in this area. The media would be sitting there right by it.
That is true, that is a possibility.
Because you have a lot of space right here, you know, for movement, and that would be, I would think, would be the area where you know, not have it necessarily attached to the wall, but have it brought inland.
Aaron's, I'm sorry, I didn't fail to recognize.
Well, that's fine, when we were talking about the media thing, I mean, we experienced today, I mean, Tom, he had to move and come sit closer here just so he could see the deal. How hard it would be technology-wise, because I don't know, to put the screen on both sides and have it going both ways, so that even though it is on the side, both sides can see it, they're looking at opposite directions, but they can both see the same thing. Is that right?
With the data and digital stuff that you have available, you'd have to have two projectors, okay? But the data going into the projector would be the same and could go to two different screens.
So that wouldn't be too big of
That
an issue.
is a
They
possibility.
do it all the time.
Yeah.
Because that would be, I mean, you could have everything straight on there, put it both ways, I could be looking this way and Tom's looking that way, we're both seeing
That's correct.
the same thing.
Yes.
Do you have any comments on, I mean, personally, I think that we should, if it appears this last, option, we could surely get around the screen issue if it fits all the other needs. I think it's important that we, move forward with the decision, because, it's costly to everybody to come and, you know, to have too much debate and change, you know. If we get this, if we think in principle this works the best, I think this is the one we should just fix up the screen issue and then continue to move
We're-
forward with the next phase, which would obviously be some costings.
Yeah, on this one here, where, you got these two posts here, where's the third post? Because those are where your beams are at.
The third post
Yeah, isn't there?
is actually to the lower side of the windows in the staff room, where the windows are.
Right here.
That's correct. So you will have a beam that comes across almost directly behind your seating.
Because I see it actually, when you measure these out, the post is probably about right there, so it's, yeah, right behind, that's where. Because I think we have to be mindful of where those beams are at, and what I like about this plan, and this configuration on this side versus the current courtroom, is you have a beam come right down the center of the room, and it's right over, basically over the chairman's head. Unless you did that one where you kind of cocked it sideways.
That's correct.
And that was the one, I always thought was the one disadvantage in the old boardroom over there years ago, was it was kind of like right down, kind of like that light fixture there, except that one hasn't fallen on the chairman, like, that one fell in the ball pile.
Now, keep in mind, the ceiling height there is probably about the same as over there.
Yeah.
So if you drop this down to the floor level, that drop beam is not as apparent.
Now, you talk about what other boardrooms, I know that was one thing that Mr. Nichols talked about, doing, I went out, I was on the legislative site, where you can actually watch committees and sessions of the Assembly and Senate, either live if they're in session or play back the video from the session a couple of days ago. And they had an Assembly Water and Parks and it was some committee meeting, but they held it over in Humboldt. It was held in Humboldt County, so when you did the link to that, it took, and Humboldt County has this Granicus thing that you guys were talking about the other day at the meeting, and they're actually live streaming their meetings. They have a camera and they have the board sits there and they have the sound, and so after I kind of watched some of that, because they were dealing with the water bond issue, that was Brian, took them all over. West Chester hosted the meeting over in Eureka there in Humboldt County. And but anyway, they had their board meetings and planning commission meetings live streamed, and I was kind of watching, and their board dais kind of, it was not raised at all. It was down, and they had the way the staff sitting. So I thought it was kind of interesting. Butte County, if you watched any Channel 12 news in the past, they showed clips from their boardroom. You have been in there maybe once. Their dais sits on the same level as everybody else. It's their chamber actually is really small. It's probably not much bigger than the chamber we have right here, which I thought was always kind of odd for Butte County when they built the new government center out there in Orville by where the jail's at. So you look at different ones that, I think probably the fanciest ones in the area is Shasta County. I mean, it's like it's kind of like the Assembly of God church area where they have seating and, it's big like that, but I guess they could afford it. But anyway, in terms of having this elevated thing is not all that, maybe in the old days it was, everybody did that. Now everybody's pretty much operating off of just flat desks.
It's cheaper.
Yeah, I think it would be worth considering. And the other thing, as far as the media being on here, I think that needs to be like a separate, from, instead of either having them tied to where the staff sit or where the board sits. So most of these drawings, the two of them are kind of close together, except for their A drawing ones.
So Jeff, this drawing, the last one, they were, I think, gonna try and make work with some adjustments. Do we just reference this like option 5?
Yeah, that's fine. Option 5 would be fine.
So when you do that, in terms of the spacing off, like where how much is in the corridor in the back and how much the seating is behind the board, or space, kind of gives them maybe like this is 6 feet and this is 4 feet and this is 15 feet, and how you've got some of those on there. You've got numbers written for, I think, seating purposes. But it'd be nice to know the dimensions, if how much room there is between.
We can do that.
One thing we need to do is not have it be so congested like it is right here.
I agree.
Yeah. As far as my only comment would be, elevated versus non-elevated, I don't think it certainly needs to be as high as this, but
No.
I'm just worried if it's flat, the ability to, because like you said, hold like 85 people, to be able to see all the way into the back, if you don't have any.
Yeah, one of the keys for having it elevated is for sight lines,
Exactly.
so that somebody in the back rows.
Well, if we do any elevation, just be minimal.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be, way
Somebody sitting in the back of your hand almost not showing up to the sun.
Exactly, yeah. I think if it's just flat, it poses a problem.
And I think on this number 5 here, you had a podium set up, but you also had like a little table with a seat next to it. And I think having that kind of a configuration would be good, because there's times when people need to have, and that was what the old boardroom had, that basically was a fairly large table work area, and 2 to 3 people could sit behind it, and they could have plenty of room for their, you know, binders or whatever they're presenting paperwork wise.
Sounds good.
One other question, Richard or Jeff, when you guys look into the elevator thing with the other one, at all, or is it,
We haven't got any information back on that.
it's probably still gonna be routing it out of the room?
Yeah, Jeff has some.
I didn't,
Estimates.
pursue that, I did not yet.
I have a,
It's probably out of the realm of.
I would think so, I would think you'd spend, $150,000, maybe even up to 200, just to get the elevator, the, equipment, foundation, electrical, and then just trying to figure out where to put it, it's gonna be an issue.
I have actually a study or a report that the other committee, when it gets going, hopefully they will be reviewing, but it's, was a proposal that kind of tied the old courthouse to the old jail, kind of like a breezeway, and it used the existing corridors of the courthouse, but you put the elevator and handicap restrooms on all floors adjacent to the elevator shaft, so it was actually built separate from, so you're not messing with any of the historic courthouse other than removing the restrooms that are at the end of the south end of the hallway on 3 floors.
One of the biggest issues was maintaining the lobby of the old courthouse as is. And so then the difficulty was trying to figure out where you could put the elevator to get the best benefit. And so most of the proposals have been for the elevator to be outside the building.
An external, and that was looked at like 25 years ago, and I came across that study the other day. So I've been pulling out all this stuff I've been saying.
Okay. If there's nothing more at this stage from the questions from the board, I'd like to go to the public and ask at this time. Yes, Eileen? Answer.
This started the ball rolling when we went to the tour of the old courthouse. There was no motion, there was no action taken by the board, just a direction from Mr. Chapman for Jeff to proceed. And I think we're jumping too fast into this because we have an entire county building. And the task force, whoever's on it, will be looking at all the county spaces and where to efficiently move them and everything. And what's really nice about this building is that the other side of the building has a ramp, it has accessibility. It has accessibility for the handicap. It has bathrooms already set up. The corner marked in yellow is where the auditor is, and directly, if you go through where the equipment room is, there's a hallway that goes back into a room that can be easily converted to a conference room. This is, and I've talked to Jeff about it, this would be less expensive, more adaptable to what the board wants for the public and for themselves. There's lots of light, the ceilings are higher. You don't have to deal with the beams across above your head. It's just a nicer area, and to do a new boardroom, it has everything. Really, when it comes down to it, you just really have to take out a couple of walls, and the cost of putting in your seating and your dais and everything. We shouldn't just feel confined to use that courtroom. We have an entire building, and since the task force, my understanding, is going to be looking at all county spaces to move people, there is space directly below, on the Lassen Street side, on the other side, to move the auditor just directly below. It's just a matter of moving them. But this is a much cheaper place to put the boardroom. Like I say, there's lots of parking in the front and the back. It's ADA, already set up for ADA, it has the bathrooms right